Generally Famous is proudly brought to you by Trade Depot. Generally famous for saving Kiwis thousands. Call into one of the stores or visit online at tradedepot.co.nz. Kia ora, Aotearoa, and welcome to Generally Famous. I'm Simon Bridges, and each week I talk to a generally famous but always interesting guest about life, love, and what makes them tick. Today I've got co-founder, director, 3EO of Sharesies, a $500 million company with 600,000 plus investors and $2 billion under management, Sonya Williams. Welcome, Sonya, to Generally Famous.
Kia ora.
It's great to have you. I'm just keen to get in and talk about your journey. I mean, before Sharesies, when there was no such twinkle in your eye idea from anyone, what were you doing?
What was I doing before Sharesies? So
Does it feel like a long time ago?
Yeah, I think it's been about 6 years now.
Yes.
I think right before Sharesies, I was working at a bank, and Kiwi Bank, running their business banking strategy. And that was a bit of a career shift for me, actually. I'd built most of my career was in technology companies and startups, so and more in the creative sector. So had kind of been more in that space, but always really, really fascinated with money, and was really interested in bank. So that's what took me to working in a bank.
And what then happened?
I found I was learning a lot through my colleagues at the bank, although I thought I knew a bit about money. Once you're actually in the walls of an institution, you're talking to your colleagues, you're learning about different things, and the whole thing was like, whoa, I'm learning so much, and I wish more people could know about this. But at the same time, so this was back in about October of 2016, it was the peak of millennials can't buy houses because they spend all their money on smashed avocado on toast. It was and it was this big boomers, millennials debate going on around property.
Yeah.
And, when you take a step back from that and you really looked at what was going on at the time, it's like house prices were really high. When Kiwis thought of investing, a lot of people thought about property. That was getting further and further out of reach. And, the reality was that all the smashed avocado on toast wouldn't get you into your first home when you need more than, 6 figures in a bank account. So it's just started mulling on, well, what's the positive story here? What's the way forward? Because it was starting to sound a bit dire for people starting out. And you're like, cool, how could this change? And where could this money go? And what is getting ahead for the future look like now if you're starting out today? And then one night I was just at home with my partner, and we were deciding whether to go out for dinner or not. And I thought, imagine if I could...
For a little smashed avocado in the evening.
Exactly. Yeah. It's for all meals. Who says it's just for breakfast? But, knew that would cost about $50 or so at the time. And thought, imagine if we could invest this money, on a regular basis, just online, whenever we want to, and build up our portfolio that way. And he'd encouraged me to take that to start talk to some of my colleagues at the bank. And, after a few conversations and then a few other conversations, a group of 6 of us from a range of different backgrounds got together and decided, actually, this could be so impactful. If we could really have a stab at this problem, which is how does everyone have the same opportunity to grow their wealth, that would feel like something really meaningful to do. And so we all kind of came together at that point. So, started the company.
So don't be modest. The kernel of this idea, the sort of the starting seed, that was you. $50 for dinner. What if we could actually do something with this that was an investment?
Yeah, that's the genesis of it. But I think there's more to being a great business than just an idea. That's the rest of the story.
Is your partner financially minded, or is that his sort of area as well, or is he a carpenter or an artist or something?
Yeah, well, he's from a creative background, so he's a designer, and when we think of just to give some context to the group, 2 are from, or the 3 of us are more from a finance and marketing and product and technology background. two are developers and had run a developer consultancy together and built great platforms around New Zealand. And then my partner he was from a design background and had worked across a range, building lots of different brands and trying to get people to engage in different things. So I think when you think of the problem ahead of us and our solution to it, one that was going to be technology based, it was going to really capture hearts and minds, it was really going to change how we felt about money culturally, how important it was that we kind of all came at that from a different background and from a different lens, and could really bring, this technology solution, this creative and design, well-designed solution that also met what it needed to do financially.
And with these 6 or 5, one of them's your partner, I think, is what you're telling me. But the other 4, then, are they your good friends, or are you like, no, I need someone who knows about this, and I need someone who knows about that? What would tell me about that?
We're great friends now,
right?
And we're almost
that's a relief.
We're almost like whānau now because
Yes.
we've been on this ride together for the last 6 years, and it's been really special actually to share it with such an awesome team. But to begin with, some of the relationships were really tenuous. So
Right.
I worked with one person, Leighton, who we worked together at KiwiBank. His partner, now wife, Brooke, she did work at KiwiBank and was working at Xero at the time. So they were a couple. And then I think Leighton and Martin were in the Wellington Brass Band together, and that was their connection. And then Richard and Martin were in a business together, and then obviously Ben and I were in a relationship too, but we'd always worked on ideas together. And
Fantastic.
So not super, people always assume we were just a bunch of besties going around yeah, cool, let's change
I've
the
got
world.
an idea. Yeah. I mean, I suppose I just asked, I kind of, the power of 6, I don't know, I've got 5 siblings. We couldn't even agree what restaurant to go to on a given evening for our smashed avocados. So that's sort of that. And then, and I sort of think, and I know what I think I know what you're going to say to this because you're going to reject it out of hand. But, if you sit there and think about it, I also think of the Beatles, 2, maybe 3 of them were geniuses. And then there was Ringo. And he was all right. He was all right, but he's not. So, you've got 6 of you, and you're going to tell me they all, it was like some movie scene or something where you needed each one for your special, unique gifts. Is that it?
Yeah, like the Avengers.
Exactly. What's your superpower? Marketing. You're Sonya from marketing, and you're.
So I think. When it comes down to it, I think everyone had a really, was coming quite senior in their career to this. So I think everyone had, a technical skill set. But it's not like we handpicked and said, oh, you need to have this skill set, or you need to. It just kind of happened that those were the skill sets that we had in the room.
Yes.
And then I think from that, what we did though was, and it was we were quite criticised early on from having 6 people starting the business, and they're the same thing that you said around, well, I've got brothers and sisters and we don't get along, or lots of people had seen partnerships not work out with the business and think, oh, if there's a fight there, now we've got 6 connections to keep on top of, and that's 6 points of failure, that could go wrong between all of those things. But I think what's different when you come at something from a team lens versus a partnership lens or something like that is you really have to find a way to work together. And it isn't, we did spend some time going, what type of business are we wanting to create, and how do we want to work together? And what we all aligned on were around our values and what meant a lot to us and what we were keen to put our hat to and put our energy in. And we have lots of respect and mutual respect for each other, and I don't think it's ever been I think none of us have a lot of ego, or it's never been like the ego decision has won. It's always been the best idea, and we always discuss it. Do you have
to work on that though? I mean, you have to, I don't know, do you go on little retreats to Cuba Street, cafe or something and sit down and, work things through, or is it not really required that?
Yeah, we do spend a lot of time together, and we try to make sure that we are, having really good debates about stuff when it matters, and we go away together once a year, but we do catch up for lunches, and we all still work together in the business. But I think it is about how you work through a problem together, maybe. Like, when someone's got a differing opinion, it's always hit with a curiosity, and I think that's just a really nice, I think if people weren't like that, it probably wouldn't have worked. But
can I ask you what is probably a entirely inappropriate question, but how old were you when all of this started, and you have the idea and then you bring together several others?
Yeah, I think I was late 20s.
Right.
But
Amazing.
as a group, we probably ranged from, I'm the youngest, so no, but as a group, we probably ranged from, me, and there's a group of us who were in our late 20s at the time, to, I think some of us would have been in mid-30s at the time.
And how did it grow from that? You've got the idea, you bring together the Avengers, and then you need to go on your mission. Run me through that, and how it's sort of,
I'll try to give you the highlights, because it's been
it's a long. Now, we haven't got 6 years worth here, right? I mean, I'm giving you 3 minutes.
First, we did a bunch of research to find out whether people had this problem and to really understand our market. Then we worked on developing a solution that we thought met the needs of that market. And I think, thinking back that long, we launched. Our first product had 6 exchange-traded funds on it. It was so different to what the product it is today. But what we did have was we had 6,000 people who had signed up, put their names on a wait list to start investing, to be interested in investing and to want to start investing from small amounts and build up their portfolio. And I guess we've just evolved with them, with our audience of investors. And as they've gone on their investing journey, we've also grown what we offer on our product. So now we've got over 8,000 investments. They range from individual companies to funds to exchange-traded funds. We have a bunch of education and support that really helps people along their investing journey. And we've got an amazing team that's grown. So from 6 of us to now around 200. Yeah. And we're based in Australia as well. We started... we expanded over there last year.
If we go forward to today, you're a big success. Sharesies is, a nationally, and at a level, as you say, internationally known, a brand and platform, and with all of the things that go with that. What do you think has made it the success that it is in 2022? Yeah,
I think so much has to go right. Right, so much has to fall into place, and as you say, some of it is, the luck you make and the hard work and that part of it. But I think we also just captured a real moment, and I think it was quite good timing. So people were looking for a way to get ahead, and the way, the advice that we've been given, from our parents or in books, it didn't really apply to moving forward, where it's put your head down and save for your first house. When that's 6 figures, that's a decade, or that can be quite a long time, and for to get your first asset. So I think that was going on at the time, and I think one thing I was really conscious of is the power of stereotypes for a number of reasons, and we hear that now in the industry is how Kiwis are bad at saving and investing. And I don't know if you've ever been told that you're bad at something, whether it was bad at maths, bad at singing, or bad at
rugby. And it was
rugby,
true.
There you go. So,
I'm not a real man.
Yeah. But I think,
I can't throw a ball.
When you're told you're bad at something, your motivation to get better or to, really accept that changes. So you got a bunch of people who are told that they're bad with money, that's just something you start to believe, and then you've got this industry that believes that it can't be changed either, and that's just the way things are. I think that's the danger with stereotypes, is you forget that those can be changed, and you actually start to believe them yourself.
I think that's right.
So I think that's what happened, and so we just created this way that so much of how we talked about money was negative. People used negative words like shame and guilt, even if they had lots of money. They always felt like they weren't doing enough. And so when we thought, hey, we're asking people to engage with this thing, it's got to feel good. what would happen if we brought empowerment to this industry, or what if we really engaged with people and made it feel really interesting and rewarding and encouraging and inclusive? Would people do, what they haven't done in the past? And what we've learned is that yes, they will. If you create something that really meets the needs of an audience, people will come on that journey with you. And I think that's we've just found a way to connect with people, really, and about something that they've been told that they've been bad at for years, and then they're starting to feel really good about it as they're committing and making those changes.
How unique is what Sharesies is and has become? I ask genuinely, I don't have a great sense of that. Do you feel like, as you say, you captured a moment and it's a genuinely very unique rather than iterative product and platform?
Financial technology is huge. Like that's just, that was also having its moment at the time that we were kind of coming around. And so I think people really looking at how technology can be used to solve money problems.
Who wasn't starting a fintech company?
Like it's just a global, that was, I think, if you looked at charts, you'd be like, oh, cool, that's really where the number of fintechs popped up and started really scaling from there. But I think what is unique is how we're kind of coming at the problem, which is lots of people, especially in the investing space, they've gone down the route where you can they've done the trading platform piece, which is just like buying and selling shares, or they've done the we'll do it for you piece. And then we're kind of somewhere in the middle. We call ourselves a wealth development platform, which is about giving people the tools and the support that they need to go on their wealth development journey, however long that takes. And so we're really in it for the long game. And really helping people build the life that they want for themselves.
And I think it's important, we might talk a bit more about this, but just to say, when you say that about the long game, of course there are risks in all of this. What is also unique is your pineapple symbol. And your website says the pineapple is arguably the crown jewel of the fruit world. That's ridiculous and unpatriotic, isn't it? I mean, what were you thinking when you went with a pineapple?
I'm so intrigued to find
you're the marketing head.
I'm so intrigued to understand the patriotic viewpoint. I haven't heard that one before.
Well, New Zealand and pineapples, that's what everyone thinks of.
Oh, I see.
I mean, but pineapple capital of the world.
Well,
Wellington. Wellington, the coolest little pineapple capital in the world.
I see your point. But
did you consider the kiwi fruit?
I think once you hear about the pineapple's journey, you'll be really you'll see the tie. But back in the day, pineapples were really exclusive, and people would buy rent them for their dinner parties to put on their table settings and then give them back. So it was like this real symbol of wealth. And in old architecture, you'll often see pineapples in the facades of buildings. And then it's gone on its own journey. And as well, it's got some really interesting cultural meanings or significance around how it's become to represent hospitality. And in different cultures, it represents prosperity and wealth and fertility. And now, where we're at today is, we can buy it on, we eat it on pizza and we buy it in a tin, and you can get it from the fish and chip shop. And it's this whole thing that it's gone on its own democratisation journey, and what used to just be for a particular group of people is now accessible for more people.
I heard a rumour it had something to do with Bill English's famous spaghetti and pineapple pizza. By the way, I didn't. I just made that up. It came to me right then. I've been on a pineapple plantation. And
whereabouts?
Sonya, Hawaii. That's the point, right? That is the point. We know that you are young, and you've been at this now 6 years, and you told us you're in your late 20s, and now you are a wealthy, very successful woman. But you're doing that in the financial and investment and even tech sectors. And I'm obviously stereotyping, but I think I'd be right to say on the numbers, those are by and large very male, actually often older male-dominated worlds. Have you felt that difference?
Yeah, on the one hand, I don't know any different. So my experience, I don't know how it feels to be a male in financial services. I only know the path that I've taken, which is being a woman. And I definitely, those stats that you speak of are ones that you feel, when you're the only person in the room, or definitely when you've got a different view. And I think sometimes it jars with our need to belong. And I think that's what's really interesting. And I hope for the future, and what we're starting to see now, especially with how we grow teams. And I think people are really understanding that diversity is our superpower. And when we're different, that's what makes us special. And I think that workplaces as well are really starting to see that the powerful change that can make, and really work on how they could be more inclusive for everyone. I think that's a huge and important change, because what the industry that we're in and what we're bringing to it, we need creative solutions. We need people to be really brave and courageous. And I think, I don't know if you can think of a time where you haven't belonged in a place, and I definitely know for myself, that's all I'm thinking about is how do I fit in here? So all my good energy is actually going into trying to fit in. And whereas if you kind of create these environments where people feel really welcome and feel that they can contribute, I really do believe that that's the power of unlocking so much great creativity, so much great, change in the world that needs to happen. So, but it has had its challenges, but I do feel optimistic for the future.
And of course, you've already said it, but if we think about Sharesies, there's a real emphasis on values, on purpose, on flexible work. My sense is, I think I'm right, I think I've even seen this myself personally, a young dynamic team that you have that doesn't drive. I think there's 3 or 4% of you drive to work, the rest are obviously taking public transport, walking and the like. You're a registered B Corp, which is about being a force for good. You talk about redefining success in business and building a more inclusive and sustainable economy.
Yeah,
tell me about that.
What our mission is really big and grunty, and our purpose is strong, to create financial empowerment for everyone. But also, how you do business is a really big way of having an impact as well. And we talked about and spent at length. What kind of workplace do we want to build here? Because we can really now influence so many people. We influence all of our team. We influence other businesses, hopefully, to try and make change in the industry. But how you do business is so important. And kind of a believer in everything is designed, but it's either by accident or by design. So you get a chance to design it or create it how you want it to be. And so being a B Corp is so important to us, because it allows us to stay. So for people who don't know what that is, it stands for Better Corporation, and it's for businesses that are for purpose and for profit, and it's an international standard, I guess, and you get audited against a certain criteria of your impacts against your environment, your communities, your social impact, and it kind of keeps you honest, and it makes sure that you're really are considering your impacts really broadly. And so, I think those principles are at the heart of what we do. We really want to make sure we're having a positive impact in actually how we do business. That matters to us, but I think it matters a lot to the people who want to come and work at Sharesies, because people want to really work in a place where they know that they're having an impact.
What's the average age?
I don't know the average age, but we do have a good, because we do get interns, so we've got, quite a young, lots of people coming in younger, but we do also have older people working here too. So probably would say around mid-30s would be the average, but that's from the top of my head.
If I think about ESG, for example, environment, sustainability and governance, what we are seeing around the world at the moment is a lot of businesses being caught out because they're talking the talk and they don't walk it. How do you in Sharesies make sure that, fantastic discussion that we've just been having is real and it's not just actually kind of a bit of smart business marketing?
Yeah, that is interesting. And I think, like I think people are working on how we do reporting in that space as well. And I think, for us, that's where the B Corp is really important, because they do audit you. So it's kind of like getting a financial audit, but on your impacts. And so I think that's what keeps us really honest, and I guess can give a lot of confidence that there's an external party looking at what we're up to and verifying it. So I know there's lots of other businesses that are B Corps too, and other companies. So as well, if you're investing and you're looking for kind of responsible companies, the other thing is it's quite personal to you about what you value as well. But companies do have to put out information, and I think what you do get to do as a shareholder is also reach out to these people. And if you're unsure, you can actually ask them and say, please show me more information about this. And I think if I think that's a huge part of companies, and we can see lots of people getting called out about the stuff where they are kind of presenting themselves in one way, where their actions are just a bit inauthentic. But we also see lots of great companies learning as well, and recognising the mistakes and then putting it right. And so I think it's an area where information is key, and also you get a chance to ask these questions of people. And I think that as a company, it's in your best interest to make sure that you're not just saying the thing to get the good votes, because that's not going to pan out very well for you. And it's an area to be careful on, because we're all on a journey, right? So what could be great one day, we're learning, and then we go, yep, cool. So it's about making these long-term commitments and going, cool, we learned some more information and we're going to put this into practice as well. So it's not about being perfect either, and don't kind of present yourself as that.
Oh, the kitchen's the busiest room in the entire Bridges household, there's no doubt about that. And look, with 3 kids, they are always on the hunt for a snack. Or Natalie and I cooking up a storm, probably both of those things actually, if I'm being honest. Reliable and good quality appliances are a must to keep actually everything in our household running smoothly. And if that's the same at your place, I'm sure it is, you can count on the team at Trade Depot. Trade Depot is 100% Kiwi owned, I love that about it, and stocks more than 4,500 top quality home improvement products. The kitchen, bathroom, laundry, whatever the project, Trade Depot's got you sorted. And best of all, there's low prices, and that's always. Free delivery with minimum spends for Auckland, for Hamilton and for Christchurch. T's and C's of course apply. Top quality products, great service and low prices. What is not to love? So I don't think there's any more excuses. Give your home an instant lift. Check out tradedepot.co.nz or call into one of their 3 stores in Auckland, Christchurch, or actually their new superstore in Hamilton near the airport now. That's made me really hungry. I need a snack. I'm on Sharesies, and my son Harry, who is 8, is also on Sharesies, and my investments at the moment are negative 17% when I checked this morning, and Harry is down 1% on his investments. So Harry, who is 8, is a rather better investor in tech stocks than I've been. How important do you reckon it is for young to learn about investment and to kind of,
It's so important, and good on you for getting them set up so early. Like, I think the key thing with money is typically time. And as you say, at the moment you're down 17%. But what we know is that markets go up and down, and that's completely how they behave. If you hang in there and recover, as long as you've picked investments you really believe in, and that you believe in the long-term vision of those companies, hopefully you'll then get to see the upside of those. So as you mentioned before as well, like, investing does have risk, but there are ways to mitigate those risks, which are, investing in companies you believe in the long term, investing for the long term. So we don't say we're a get-rich-quick scheme or anything like that. We are really for the long term. And then diversifying, so not having all your money riding on one thing. But
which is what I did, but, let's not go there.
But those risk mitigants are for the moment.
Not big
now,
money, by the way. Very small.
To get through now.
I don't even know if I actually even have one share in the company that I'm in. But let's not. I'm not going to name it. I don't know why. I just think
coming back to the kids. How important is it for kids? It's like, I definitely didn't grow up thinking investing in, like I didn't really understand what investing in companies really was. And, when we were doing our research with people and you asked them, hey, do you want to invest? There was this real perception that, well, it's actually really intangible and I don't really know what it is. And, but the reality is that they're businesses and people go to work there every day and you can actually see the buildings that they work in. And, I think piecing this and creating this understanding from a child, like around how business works and making it this tangible thing, I think it's so important. And also you can then start to see the connections between companies and what's going on in the world. The wealth of discussion that can actually happen off the back of that is so interesting. And you're kind of building these connections from such a young age. There's a lot in that. And what I hear from lots of people as well is like that they have a grandparent and their granddaughter, going out for morning tea once a week, talking about their shares and what's happened. And I think the power is in the conversation that it facilitates and the learning that's happening there.
How, if we think about you personally, I'm not asking you to say these for stock and but how have you invested and what have you sort of now, how has that affected your practices in terms of investment?
Yeah, so my first investment was through an employee share scheme. So like where I worked, you got shares for working there, and I didn't really know what that meant, and so I think that was a really interesting learning part in itself. Like actually having them made me need to learn about them. So as for a catalyst of needing to learn about them, and then my first kind of investment that I made was on Sharesies. Actually, once we launched the platform, because I didn't have enough to meet the minimum of the other brokers, and I'd emailed them and they had said, sorry, I call it anti-marketing where people don't want your business. And so by the time, it came to making my first investment, I definitely took the funds approach because I was just starting out and that's all we had on the platform at the time. But as my confidence has grown over time and as I've understood more about how to make investments, and investing is so much about the future, right? Like even the fact that you're investing, it's like because you want to grow wealth in the future. And one thing that, we've learned as well and through our investors is it's really hard to think of that future without the type of world you're living in at the time. Yes. So I also like to use my investments for, hey, is this creating or contributing to a world that I want to live in the future? So I like to really back things that are like, yeah, cool, this feels like a future that I'd be really stoked to be in. Have you
ever had any howlers? Have you made any terrible decisions that you wished you didn't kind of make?
I think every now and then, it's the conversation. Like it's when I haven't really known why I've invested in a thing. It's because someone's told me or it feels like it's a hot tip or something, where I haven't done, I haven't felt this connection to it, or I feel like I haven't done, if I don't know why I'm doing it, then I also don't know when the right time to sell it is or anything like that as well. So definitely early on, it was like, I enjoy more the experience, and I've probably done better on ones that I understand why I've invested in it.
How's it going in Aussie? See, if you use the pineapple in Aussie, I could understand that.
What a segue. Yeah. What a segue. But so we're really excited to be in Australia. We've got a fantastic team over there too. And, also our purpose exists, it needs to exist over there as well. We've got a lot of the similar problems are happening in Australia as what we're seeing in New Zealand, and there's a huge opportunity for Sharesies over there. So it is early on. We've just been building our brand, building our customer base, and building our product out over there, really understanding the nuances of the Australian market and trying to make sure that we're well positioned. But no, it's exciting times over there.
How do you feel about the future for Sharesies?
Feel excited. I've been 6 years in and it still feels like we're just at the beginning. I think that there's heaps of positive traction. Like, we've got 11% of Aotearoa on Sharesies now. And as you mentioned at the start, they've invested over $2 billion into Sharesies, which is a huge amount of money going in to where it wouldn't have typically gone. And I think so excited about continuing to evolve and solve the problems that still exist and making investing accessible. I think we're really excited about a future where money is seen as a bit of like a shared experience. So I mean that from how does money more accurately map how we live our lives? So we live our lives with people. We live our lives as employees, as customers, as also part of a whānau. So we're excited about how do we create, tools that actually map how we live our lives. How do we create more employees as shareholders across New Zealand companies, and as well, like how do customers become shareholders? Because a lot of people, put a lot of, I guess, their identity into the brands that they consume, and think that that's like a really another cool lever there. And as well, just continuing to work and have a fantastic team, and continue to really challenge the industry, challenge the status quo, how businesses are run. It's not about being perfect, but it is about being committed and going, we are totally committed to making sure that we're evolving and how business is done as well.
And what about you? If we cast forward, 20 years when you'll still be young, is it going to be you and your 5 colleagues that came together and started this, still going strong? Do you have other thoughts and dreams of things you'd like to do, having sort of started this? I mean, you're a startup person and then you move away and do something else, or what do you think the future holds for you?
Yeah, I think 20 years is quite a long time to think about. If I think 20 years back, it's quite, that's a confronting amount of time. And I think what I would say is, like, I hope that I'm working in a really impactful space and making a difference. And I think that goes the same for all of us, is like, while we believe that we're still the best people, to be here, or this is like we're having a real impact with our time and our effort, and I think we believe that we're building something that will have an impact for generations to come if we can get it right. And, I'm already impressed by the change that I've seen happen in 5 years, which makes me optimistic for how quickly things can change if you bring a lot of like passion and energy to it as well. So if we're on that path of creating financial empowerment for everyone, like, that's a grunty problem, and we often talk about it. It's like a life's work thing, It's not an easy thing. It's not one thing, but we're so committed to it. But if I feel like I'm having an impact and it's a problem that gets me really excited and out of bed every morning, then that's probably where I'll be.
We are going to wrap up the questions I ask every guest, and we call this section General Knowledge. What single object, Sonya, would you save from your house?
I'll try not to overthink it. But I think for practical reasons, it's got to be probably my phone, because I'd want to get in touch with people.
You need to be checking your Sharesies app.
I need to check my Sharesies. I need to see how my portfolio's doing.
Are you like 19 times a day on the Sharesies app, or what?
I'm not 19 times a day, but I do like to check it. And then I have like longer stints on it where I'll do research, but I do check it on a regular basis. What
is the best night out that you have ever had?
That is a grunty question. I'm more of a night in person, but and I love a good low-key dinner with my friends or whānau. Yeah. We were just kind of having a laugh. But one thing I did do recently, which was I went out for a yum dinner with my partner, and we went to a Chris Parker comedy show. Nice. And it was just such a hoot, and it felt like in the middle, it was like in one of those weeks where Wellington was just, I think it rained for 6 days out of the 7, and it was feeling very Wellington. And there's just nothing better than a good belly laugh. So I really enjoyed that.
What's the best advice given to you, and who gave it?
Yeah, one that's kind of stuck with me over time is that if you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. And if you'd asked me who'd said it, I probably would have said my mum, because she always had these great quotes when I was growing up for every situation. I've now learned, I think it was Henry Ford who said it. But, I think it was just like this importance of the power of mindset and actually that, hey, a big part of whether something's going to work out or not is really what you're bringing to it. And I think that's been, something that I've really taken with me and through my life, which came from my mum originally.
Fantastic. Well, we've talked Avo Toast, the ridiculousness of pineapples as a symbol in changing investment culture in our country. Sonya, thank you so much for coming on Generally Famous. You've been listening to Generally Famous. Every episode is available from stuff.co.nz/generallyfamous or wherever you get your podcasts. If you follow us on any of the podcast apps, you'll get instant access to the next episode. Do it now before you forget. Thanks to my producer, Chris Reed. I'm Simon Bridges. Thanks very much for listening. Generally Famous is proudly brought to you by Trade Depot. Generally famous for low prices, always.